Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new Ninjago video here on the channel. My name is TannerFishies. In today's video, we are going to be discussing some recent Ninjago Dragons Rising Season 4 news and leaks surrounding the entire Season 4 cast list being leaked and just how many episodes each character will be in. I did an entirely separate video going over the entire list as it appeared online. If you have not yet checked out that video, would highly recommend doing so using the link in the description. These do reportedly come from a dubbing studio, however, that dubs over Ninjago episodes in other languages, so this is looking rather authentic, but just keep in mind these are still very much subject to change and possibly will change. But for today's video, I would like to elaborate more on a few characters that appear in the cast list, more specifically a few variations of Lloyd. For example, we have normal Lloyd, we also have young Lloyd, we have teen Lloyd as well, and finally enemy Lloyd. I plan on doing an entire separate video later on talking about enemy Lloyd because I feel like that is a conversation that needs to have its own dedicated video. But for today's video, let's talk about young Lloyd and teen Lloyd. What exactly are these variants of Lloyd and what exactly could we see in Dragons Rising Season 4 featuring, well, young Lloyd and teen Lloyd? Well, I feel like for a lot of people, this very much confirms that there will indeed be flashbacks in Dragons Rising Season 4, possibly to Lloyd's youth. These flashbacks will span across a few different episodes, considering that episode 5 will apparently have young Lloyd and teen Lloyd will be in episodes 6 and 7. And it's not like we haven't seen something like this before. You might remember from Dragons Rising Season 1, there was a very distinct flashback scene featuring a younger Lloyd training with Master Wu. Now granted, there were some liberties taken in that scene regarding young Lloyd's design not really being super accurate to how we actually saw young Lloyd in the earliest Ninjago seasons. Plus, not to mention, he had a completely different voice in that scene, not really utilizing Jillian Michaels, the original voice of Lloyd. Rather, it was Lloyd's current actor, Sam Vincent, doing, again, just a younger Lloyd voice. While some liberties were taken in that scene, like I said, we've had flashbacks before to Lloyd's youth. Dragons Rising Season 4 could totally do more. Now, I imagine we will see the same young Lloyd design, obviously, in these flashbacks, just because, again, that model already exists for Dragons Rising, and it's been used in the past with the aforementioned Season 1 flashbacks. But what exactly will the teen Lloyd model look like? Well, in my opinion, that will be based on his design post-Lloyd aging up from the earlier Ninjago seasons. So anything after the episode Child's Play, I guess until the end of Hands of Time, like that era of Ninjago, I imagine that's what the teen Lloyd designation will be. Of course, I am expecting some liberties to be taken here along with this design. I am very much not expecting teen Lloyd to look exactly like how he looked way back in the day. In fact, I think there is a perfect opportunity here to capitalize on the Ninjago Legacy 2026 sets, because of course those sets will include ZX style ninja, obviously just updated for the modern day, and we do know that Lloyd ZX, at least a Legacy Lloyd ZX, will actually happen. So Dragons Rising Season 4 will probably use that updated Lloyd ZX design for the flashbacks, complete with the current Lloyd face, but also maybe giving him his older hairstyle, while also, once again, more likely than not, having golden shoulder pads, just because all of the Legacy ZX Ninja are going to have golden shoulder pads, at least from what we've seen so far. Long story short, I am very much expecting teen Lloyd in these flashbacks to look something like this, a quick mock-up that I made just using, again, the original Lloyd ZX, just with the golden shoulder pads, the Ninjago movie era of face, and the old Lloyd hair. If the teen Lloyd design will be anything like the young Lloyd design that we saw in the Season 1 flashbacks, and the design that we expect to see again in Dragons Rising Season 4, yeah, this is probably what Lloyd is going to look like in those flashbacks as teen Lloyd. I have seen some theories as well suggesting that maybe these are not flashbacks, but rather instead Lloyd will simply just be de-aged and have to age up again, but come on, I very much feel like flashbacks are what we are looking at here. But what exactly would these flashbacks actually entail? Well, I have an answer for that as well, and I touched on this very briefly in my previous video talking about the voice lines. I feel like since Dragons Rising Season 4 has been said in the past to very much focus on Lloyd and his elemental powers, something tells me Lloyd's powers will be retconned even more in Dragons Rising Season 4. And in order to get these retcons, we will go back to Lloyd's youth and his teenage years to actually understand further what his powers are. Maybe we could see remade scenes from earlier Ninjago seasons where Lloyd actually does advance in his powers, whether that be him firstly utilizing his powers during Ninjago Season 2, maybe unlocking his golden power towards the end of Season 2, or maybe even post the Temple of Light sequence in Season 3, where Lloyd gave up the rest of his golden power, only being left with energy or life or green, whatever Dragon's Rising Season 4 will actually dub Lloyd's powers. Or maybe like the case during Dragon's Rising Season 1, we will see an entirely new flashback, meant to take place at some point between early Ninjago episodes, but obviously, like I said, taking a lot of the same liberties that we are expecting from these Dragon's Rising Season 4 flashback sequences. I feel like Season 4 of Dragon's Rising will do a lot for Lloyd's elemental power and a lot to explain what exactly it is. A lot of that might have to do with going back and establishing things or retconning certain events from Ninjago history. Now, to wrap up this video, I would very much like to talk about, again, the liberties that will probably be taken with Lloyd in these flashbacks, specifically with his voice. I feel like since the original Dragon's Rising flashbacks featuring young Lloyd were very much criticized by most Ninjago fans, especially for Lloyd's voice, maybe there's a chance that this time around we could actually see Jillian Michaels back again, the original voice of Lloyd, to reprise her role as young Lloyd for the flashbacks. I feel like the designs will again still be reminiscent of modern Lloyd aesthetics, but I would love it if maybe we could at least have Jillian Michaels back. There has certainly been enough time following Dragon's Rising Season 1 for Ninjago to make this change. Nothing against Sam Vincent, obviously. I still very much respect him as a voice actor. I just feel like he doesn't really work for the younger versions of Lloyd. The only reason why he was brought in the first place and why he replaced Jillian Michaels was because Ninjago staff felt like Lloyd needed to mature a little bit in his voice. And that mature voice works for the older Lloyd that we saw starting with Sons of Garmadon, but it doesn't really work with the younger Lloyd that we are now seeing over and over again in Dragon's Rising flashbacks. It would also be a nice callback for the 15th anniversary, so why not just do it? But with that being said, everyone, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for my thoughts here. Like I said, just wanted to elaborate even more surrounding these Lloyd flashbacks that we are very much expecting to see in Dragon's Rising Season 4. Leave all of your thoughts down below in the comments, though, everybody. What exactly are your thoughts, theories, concerns, anything in between surrounding the young Lloyd and teen Lloyd flashback sequences that will more likely than not pop up in Dragon's Rising Season 4? And what exactly do you think the flashbacks will entail? Leave all of your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys again very, very soon. Peace.